Hei til alle dere som har lagt dere på dette webinaret. Bare rask oppfordring om at dersom dere ønsker å bli kontaktet av Portland State University etter webinaret, så ligger det en lenke til et sånt registreringsskjema i chatten. Så før vi starter webinaret nå, så er det egentlig en perfekt anledning til å klikke på den lenken og gå inn og så fylle inn kontaktinformasjonen sin der sånn, for da får dere da muligheten til å komme i kontakt med Portland State University. Men da tenker jeg at vi rett og slett tar og skal vi se, jeg kan sende den, se om noen som ikke ser lenken, kan kanskje sende den en gang til. Supert, yes. Ja, men supert dere, da ønsker jeg velkommen til webinar, og så kjører vi rett og slett i gang. Yes, da, som sagt, hjertelig velkommen til dette webinaret. Det her er rett og slett dagens meny. Vi skal se litt på hva Sonor er, og hva vi i Study Outside Norway kan gjøre for dere. Og så skal jeg bare også fortelle litt om min personlige studieopplevelse, for jeg har selv studert i utlandet, både bachelor og mastergrad. Så skal vi få hovedattraksjonen i kveld, som da er presentasjon av Portland State University ved Samuel Dunlop. Og så tar vi rett og slett en liten Q&A til slutt. Så ja, spenn på setebeltet, og så sveiver vi rett og slett i gang. Så Sonor fungerer litt grann som Tinder, men i stedet for å matche folk romantisk, så matcher vi da personer med de ulike universitetene som vi samarbeider med. Så på den måten så liker vi på en måte da å, gjennom den veiledningen vi gjør, liker vi da å bli litt mer kjent med dere som tar kontakt med oss, sånn at vi kan finne ut hvilket universitet, og kanskje også hvilket studieretning som passer dere best mulig ut ifra de ønskene og forutsetningene som dere har. Og så er det også sånn at Sonor også fungerer litt grann som en arbeidstakerorganisasjon. Det vil si at vi sørger for at de rettighetene som dere har som studenter blir ivaretatt. Vi driver også med litt grann politisk påvirkning for å sørge for at de rammebetingelsene som man har som utenlandsstudent er så gode som mulig. For eksempel da gjennom at Lånekassen gir ordentlig støtte, og at man har utvidet helseforsikring som utenlandsstudent, som er en av de tingene. I tillegg så jobber vi også da opp mot universitetene for å gjøre opptakskravene så rettferdig som mulig, og også forenkle søknadsprosesser og den type ting da. Så på en eller annen kanskje ikke sånn supermatematisk måte, så vil jeg si at Sonor er det beste av Tinder og arbeidstakerorganisasjonene. Så i tillegg til å hjelpe dere da med å finne ut hvor og hva dere skal studere, så hjelper vi da dere med å faktisk søke. Og da kvalitetssikrer vi søknaden deres, sånn at dere får maksimert potensial for opptak på det studiet som dere har lyst til å gå på. Vi svarer også på spørsmål om Lånekassen, visum, språktesting og sånne type ting hvis dere trenger det. Reise, studieforberedelse, registrering av fag. Og så setter vi dere også i kontakt med andre studenter som skal til det samme universitetet som dere. Og best av alt, det er at all den veiledningen og hjelpen som vi i Sonor gir, den er helt gratis og uforpliktende for dere. Så dere får ikke noe regning fra oss i Sonor på noe som helst tidspunkt. Og når dere kommer i kontakt med oss, så det den gjengen her som tar kontakt med dere. Vi alle sammen tidligere utenlandsstudenter. Vi vet litt om hvordan det å være utenlandsstudent, og sånn sett så mener vi at vi veldig kompetente til å hjelpe dere da med å oppnå studiedrømmen i utlandet. Og vi har da 60 forskjellige universitet fordelt på disse landene, og rundt 5.500 forskjellige studieretninger, og i nærmere bestemt USA, som vi i dag skal kanskje se litt nærmere på, og Portland State University, så det et av mange populære reisedestinasjoner. Vi har da til sammenligning, som sagt, 60 universitet, 5.500 forskjellige studieprogram, som vi kan hjelpe dere med å søke på. Til sammenligning så har dere ca. 25 institusjoner for høyere utdanning, og 1.300 studieprogram dere kan søke på gjennom samordnet opptak. Så det finnes bokstavelig talt en verden av muligheter utenfor kongerikets grenser. Men hvorfor skal man studere i utlandet da? Og her det vel egentlig kanskje sånn at det finnes like mange grunner som det finnes utenlandsstudenter. Men det ikke tvil om at det også studere i utlandet sørger for at man får et konkurransefortrinn i arbeidsmarkedet blant annet når man ferdig studert. Og i 2-3 år siden så var det en kjempestor forskningsrapport som ble publisert av et forskningssenter som heter NIFU, og de driver da med, og de forsker på høyere utdanning, og hvordan høyere utdanning på en måte påvirker samfunnet, og de som bruker utdanningen, blant annet da gjerne studenter. Og den studien sammenlignet de som har studert i utlandet og de som har studert i Norge, og fant ut at de som har studert i utlandet kommer raskere ut i jobb etter endt utdanning. Utenlandsstudentene føler også mer mestring på jobb. Det en høyere andel av de som i lederstillinger etter 5 og 10 år i arbeidslivet. De har samme eller høyere lønn. Flere studiemuligheter nevnte vi jo. Generelt sett så også utenlandsstudentene mer fornøyd med utdanningen sin. Flere har internasjonale karrierer, bedre språk og bedre kulturforståelse en naturlig følge av det jeg også studerte i utlandet. Og så det også heldigvis sånn at lånekassen det som gjør studier mulig for de aller fleste. Du trenger ikke ha en rik onkel i USA for å oppnå drømmen om å studere i USA for eksempel. Så lånekassen gjør rett og slett utdanning mulig. Og vi skal se bare litt mer på lånekassa etter hvert, men jeg tenker før det så skal jeg bare snakke litt om min personlige opplevelse med det å studere i utlandet. Så kanskje på en måte det beste med å studere i utlandet, synes jeg, det var de opplevelsene og vennene som jeg fikk gjennom den erfaringen. Og det kan jeg kanskje best eksemplifisere med det bildet her sånn. Hun i hvit kjole der sånn, det hun jeg gifta meg med for 3 år siden, og dette alle nasjonalitetene som var representert i vårt bryllup. Og det var jo da sånn at selv om vi begge to studerte i Storbritannia, så var det ikke sånn at vi ble kjent med briter. Vi ble en del av et internasjonalt fellesskap, og har da et nettverk som sprer seg rundt om i de fleste verdenshjørner, og en ting som jeg synes veldig kult da, med å ha studert i utlandet. Og det hadde ikke vært mulig for meg uten lånekassa, og sånn sett så skal vi jo kanskje være glad for at foreldre og sånne type ting betaler skatt, sånn at utdanning i utlandet mulig. Og av lånekassen så får dere, jeg skal ikke gå så i detalj, men jeg kan raskt gi dere et overblikk. Av lånekassen så får dere 3 sekker med penger. Basisstøtte, reisestøtte og skolepengestøtte. Basisstøtten den samme uansett hvor man studerer i hele verden, og det som skal dekke husleie, strøm, mat, vann, pils, kinobilletter og alt sånn hverdagslig. Støtten blir utbetalt 2 ganger i året, og i løpet av et skoleår så får du til sammen utbetalt 126 000 kroner cirka, hvor 75 000 skal betales tilbake, og 50 000 blir gjort om til stipend når du står på eksamen. Skolepengestøtten litt mer komplisert, men enkelt forklart så får du utbetalt det skolen koster, og så blir ca. 35 000 av det du betaler i skolepenger gjort om til stipend. Og så det også sånn at man får reisestøtte. Den varierer litt grann fra sted til sted, men så for eksempel til Australia så får du rundt 27 000 kroner, til Europa får du rundt 5 000 kroner, og til Nord-Amerika så får du rundt 20 000 kroner. Og det ble da utbetalt som 65% lån og 35% stipend. Og med den her ganske generøse ordningen så gjør det da at du fullt mulig kan finansiere studiene dine i utlandet. Så hvis det noen som har mer spørsmål om Lånekassen og sånne type ting, så kan vi ta det til slutt. Og jeg tenker også bare sånn generelt sett, skal jeg også bare oppfordre alle om at hvis det noe som utklart underveis i presentasjonen, så det bare å skrive spørsmålene dere har i chatten, og så tar vi da spørsmålene til slutt, tenker jeg. And I think that concludes the part of the presentation that we're going to do in Norwegian. And I'll hand over the reins to Samuel Dunlop, who's working at the Portland State University, and he's going to provide you with some more information.
All right. Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate it. And you can hear me okay? Awesome. All right, folks. My name is Sam, and I've got to tell you that, that was one of the most interesting mashups, remixes of the national anthem that I've ever heard. I've never heard that presentation before, Thomas, so I'm grateful to see what you all are doing and getting creative with that song. It certainly keeps it interesting. I'm going to go ahead and drop the registration link for today's presentation in the chat. Again, I know that some of you may have seen it already. Some people came in late, so maybe you did not see it. I will also do my best to speak a little slowly since, at least for me, it's early here. And I know for all of you, it's afternoon and maybe you were in school or doing something else, but we'll go at a deliberate pace. I think we've got, what, 35 minutes-ish? Is that right? Okay, cool. Well, my name is Sam Dunlop. I have the pleasure and honor to represent Portland State University, which is really a unique university in the 4,000-ish plus colleges and universities in the United States. You will find out as we go along here that we are unique for a number of reasons. One of which is because we are on what some people would call the left coast of the United States. I call it the best coast of the United States. You might know it as the west coast of the United States. And if you're still not sure what that means that we are on the coast of the United States. That includes California and the state of Washington. And Oregon is the state that's squished right between California and Washington. And we are like the hat of California. We're a beautiful state. We're not as hot, not so many fires, but Portland is Oregon's largest city, and our university is situated right in the heart of downtown Portland, Oregon. In case you'd like to check out our brochure, because we're not here in person, I can't hand you one. You can look at the digital brochure using that QR code on the screen if you'd like to look more in depth or to see individual specific majors that we have available to students. But just as a brief profile about us, one of the things that's really unique is that we are an urban institution, and we're a large public institution. So you may be familiar with, in the United States, we've got some sort of distinctions between public universities and private universities. And private universities generally in the United States tend to be a little bit smaller than public universities. They also tend to be a little bit more expensive depending on how much scholarship or aid they offer. Public universities, we call them public because they are publicly financed. And in the United States, each public university receives financing from their specific individual state. So the good people of Oregon pay taxes, and they basically subsidize a variety of different public universities in the state of Oregon, which means that students who are from Oregon, grew up in Oregon, pay taxes in Oregon, get a discount on attending college or universities that are public in Oregon. As an international student, you will pay the same amount of money as a student who's coming from Texas or New York or from Indonesia, for example. But more importantly, what you will see here is that some basic facts about us. We're about 26,000 students. Our international profile is really quite great. We've got more than 6% of our campus is international in scope. They come from 89 different countries around the world, of course, including Norway. A lot of our students who are coming to PSU, they've come from a family where perhaps no one has ever attended college before. This is something that we are really proud of because it helps them move in social mobility, which is one of the great motivations and missions of Portland State University, is to help be a social innovation engine and also form a ability for students to economically grow and thrive. Most of our students at Portland State University are undergraduate students. So that means that they are going to be looking to earn a bachelor's degree, and a paucity, a dearth, a minority of the students are actually looking to earn a master's or a doctoral degree. So about 20,000-ish of our 26,000 students are going to be earning a bachelor's degree, either as a first-year student, which means someone who's coming right out of high school, or as a transfer student. So we've got students who perhaps maybe started college somewhere before, maybe they had a child, maybe they took some time off, maybe they wanted to take a gap year, and then they start university back up at Portland State University. But one of the things, like I said before, that's really unique about Portland State University is our downtown location. Most colleges, universities in the United States are actually located in the suburbs. They're not located in the heart of downtown. We happen to have a really unique profile, not just because we're public and we're large and we're a research university, but because we are in the heart of the downtown. So for instance, right outside my window, I'm actually in one of the buildings behind this virtual background that I'm in. I can hear the streetcar and the light rail train going by. And as some of you will know, America does not have the best reputation for public transit. Whereas in Portland, we are way more European in terms of students being able to get around free with your college ID. I don't know if you see that colorful little streetcar in that image, but if you take your college ID, you get to go around Portland anywhere on the streetcar for free, which is pretty cool. We also are unique in terms of the things that we offer to students once you become a student, not just our profile, but the different range of organizations, opportunities to engage in sports, the places you can live on campus, although unlike a lot of universities, we don't require you to live on campus. So for instance, many of the students think that if you go to a US college or university, you have to live in the dormitories. That's just not true. For some students, that will make the best sense because it's a great way to meet and make friends. On the other hand, you might know another student who's coming from Norway or another part of the world, and you might decide to rent out a flat together someplace near campus. You have that choice, you have that freedom, you have that flexibility at Portland State. We are not a very large campus. For instance, we have a sister university that's about 100 miles down the road, and their campus is about 2,000 acres. We're only 50 acres, which means at maximum it takes you about 15 minutes to walk from the farthest building on one side of campus to the other side of campus, which is really nice because if you roll out of bed from your dormitory and decide you're going to wear your pajamas to class, you don't have to walk that far because we're in the middle of downtown and everything is close. We do offer a lot of aid and support, financial aid to students of all sorts, including international students, including students from Norway. And like I mentioned, we do have athletic opportunities. Lots of students pursue an interest in university studies outside of Norway because they are interested perhaps in competing athletically, joining some sort of sports team, or maybe just being a part of intramural college sports, generally speaking. But the big point here is that we are unique. We're located downtown. We've got lots of opportunities for students to get involved. And after all, I think that's one of the biggest reasons why international students choose to pursue a university degree in the United States, because for many of them, the opportunities to get involved, to learn from life outside the classroom is as important as it is for them to learn inside the classroom. So there are lots of ways to take your education, your skills, your life experiences outside the context of a book, outside the context of a lecture, and actually get involved in organizations and opportunities outside the class. And that's one of the really unique things about the American educational system is that you can join clubs, you can join sports teams, you can do all these things that are associated with the university that aren't technically speaking a part of your academics. And of course, one of the other reasons, that so many students around the world still really choose an interest in the United States as a destination to earn a degree is because of the thing that we talk about that you should be thinking about no matter where you study, inside of Norway or outside. And that's this notion of the return on investment. What will a degree in the United States do for you in a way that a degree maybe in Norway or someplace else in the EU or in the UK might not be able to do? And I think one of the primary reasons why we talk about return on investment at Portland State is because there are so many opportunities to get connected to jobs and unique placements or internships because of the industries that are around our campus. So some of you will have heard of the Nike swoosh symbol before. Thomas, maybe you've heard me talk about this, but that Nike swoosh symbol that you see on shoes and on people's clothing was actually born at Portland State here at our campus in 1971 because of a student. She was taking classes, her name was Carolyn, from a guy who was founding a shoe company who had just started importing these Japanese shoes and the materials. And he said, I'm looking for someone to help me design a logo for this shoe company that I'm starting. And this woman, Carolyn Davidson, who was an undergraduate student at that time, raised her hand and said she would help. So she came back a few weeks later and delivered to him the Nike swoosh. And he thought it sucked. He thought it was terrible. But she said, trust me, this is simple, it's easy. And you know what? Now in the year 2021, that Nike swoosh symbol is one of the globally most recognized symbols anywhere in the world. And the reason I say that is because of that connection. Way back then in that classroom in 1971, PSU has a connection to Nike, both in terms of internships, but also graduation opportunities for job placement in a way that many other universities and colleges don't, because we've had that direct connection. We've had that connection. And that founder, Phil Knight, actually taught at PSU's campus, and his signature image, the logo, the swoosh, was born here. So when I talk about that return on investment, it's really important to realize that some of these colleges and universities in the United States or wherever you choose to go may afford you unique opportunities that really allow you to capitalize on that investment, because many of you know, if you've made it here this long and this far and you're demonstrating an interest in studying in the United States, that an education in the United States is not nearly as affordable or inexpensive as pursuing an education in Norway. So there has to be a value added to you too that makes this investment worthwhile. And I would argue that these opportunities for employment, these opportunities for internships, these opportunities for research really are what distinguish that return on investment. So we've got Adidas's North American headquarters here. We've got people who are taking jobs at Apple back down in Cupertino and in Portland and in the state of Washington. Of course, Intel, they make computer chips. They've got a headquarters facility here in the neighborhood. So whether you're interested in business or graphic design, or maybe engineering, computer science, there are lots of ways that we are uniquely situated at Portland State University to afford you opportunities, not just for internships while you're a student, but really great connections to jobs after you graduate. These are the top employers of our students after they graduate from Portland State University. One of the other things that I think is different about studying in the United States is that we really work to support people's identity and give them an opportunity to connect to other students who are like them and make them feel seen in spaces on campus. So we've got all these different resource centers, depending on what meets and catches your eye or suits your interest or your identity generally, where you can celebrate that, where you can be around people who understand, and where you can be supported and have resources. So whether or not they're around identity, for instance, queer issues, or if you're interested in being involved in the Women's Resource Center, there are lots of opportunities for you to get connected, or for other identities that are important. Most of the students at Portland State University, we've got a plurality of students. 40% of them define themselves as being diverse in some way, shape, or form. And so we really try to afford opportunities for students to connect to that and to connect to their identity and other students like them. Now, despite us being a large urban research university, we do a pretty pretty good job at keeping our class sizes relatively small. So you'll see here that our student to faculty ratio is 20-1. That means for every 20 students, there is one faculty member. And our average class size for the first year students is about 28, which is probably, I would imagine, not so different than what it's like in a Norwegian high school. At least in the Norwegian high schools that I've been in, maybe there are 25 to 35 students in a class. And so you're even in your freshman year classes here, your first year student classes at Portland State, your class sizes will generally be pretty modest in size. Now, of course, when you go to a public university, sometimes the most popular classes will be a little larger. And of course, things look different because of COVID. So some of our classes, for instance, this fall, classes are beginning actually next Monday. So not that far from now. But some of the classes will be offered entirely remotely. Some of the classes will be in person, and some of them will be hybrid. So if you wake up one day and you want to take class from your bed, or if you want to show up, some of the classes are being offered in both modalities. We do have opportunities. So for instance, you're already making the decision to study abroad. Let's say while you're at Portland State University, you're like, you know what, studying in Cairo sounds really interesting to me. You have the opportunity to study abroad during your study abroad experience if you wish, because many colleges and universities in the United States really encourage students, regardless of where you're from, to actually make their education international. And oftentimes they don't change the tuition and fees for your ability to be able to do so. So we have a lot of different opportunities in 80 different countries around the world for you to be able to take your education. Let's say if the United States is just a little too vanilla for you and you want to take it to the next level and go someplace for a shorter period of time as a part of your bachelor's degree, you have the opportunity to do that. And of course, we've got more than 200 different programs you can choose from, and they're spread across these schools and colleges in different areas of study. So for instance, if you take computer science, you'll be in the engineering college. If you take for instance, a marketing course, you'll actually be within the School of Business. And of course, we do have opportunities for students who really, really, really like to excel academically. We have something that's called the Honors College, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. But this is the general overall kind of layout and structure of the university. Now, some of you know that in the United States, we have what's called a liberal arts curriculum, which means that in addition to studying the one topic that you choose, so for instance, I studied political science and English literature as an undergrad. In addition to that course, in addition to those majors, I was what's called a double major. And you can choose, for instance, if you study in the United States, to study more than one thing, and it generally doesn't cost you more money, which is kind of mind-blowing. But in addition to whatever you choose to study, you have the opportunity to what we call liberalize your education and take university studies classes here at PSU. And this is generally true across the United States. You will not just take classes relevant to the area in your course of study specifically. We want you to recognize connections between what you're studying and other topics so that you are liberally educated. Not just, let's say for me, it wasn't just political science or English. I needed to take some math classes. I needed to take some science classes. I needed to take some humanities classes and some like geography classes and things like that. And it really varies depending on your major, the kind of general education classes that you need to take. But at PSU, there are two tracks you can use to do this. One of them is our university studies class. And so, for example, in university studies, rather than having you take classes kind of in isolation, like let's say you need to take a math class and a science class, you will take a class that looks at a concept like global urbanization or climate change and look at it from a variety of different disciplinary perspectives. So looking at climate change through the lens of mathematics, social science, politics, arts, things like that. Rather than taking a single class in all those areas, we give you a theme and we really want you to think about things critically and get exposed to them across a variety of different lenses. Now, if you decide that you actually really want to challenge yourself, and many colleges and universities in the United States offer this, we have the Honors College. It does require a separate application within the application, but you have to apply and submit some essays. But it's really a rigorous course of study. It adds a little bit more effort. You have to complete a thesis by the time that you're done. The class sizes are smaller. You've got more direct contact with faculty. And there are lots more research opportunities, but you have to really be motivated to want to kind of augment your academic experience. And some people really, really, really thrive on that academic kind of focused kind of journey, but I'm happy to answer more specific questions individually for those who might have questions afterwards about that. All right. This is the fun part, and where I really think that I can make a memorable difference between other presentations that you may have attended around universities and colleges in the United States. What's really mind-blowing about PSU is that we opt on a system that's called threshold-based admissions. So if you have the equivalent of a 2.5 US GPA, you're guaranteed admission. We don't require the SAT. We don't require the ACT. This is actually an outdated slide because we changed our admission requirements. But if you have what would be the equivalent of about a B-, C+ average, you're guaranteed admission. There's no mystery about it. And that's because we operate on a threshold-based system, which is really different compared to many other universities and colleges in the United States, where it's kind of a mystery. Sometimes you have to just submit your transcripts or your Vietnamals and hope that your academic profile meets the requirements of the institution, or maybe you need to submit that and SAT scores and an essay, and you still don't have any certainty around whether or not you will get admitted. The beautiful thing about Portland State is that you know before you apply, with the help of your Sonor advisors, whether or not it's likely you're going to get accepted, because we publish our minimum requirements and we say if you don't meet those, you're not going to get accepted. If you meet those, you know you're going to get accepted. And that's really radically different, because many colleges and universities in the United States pride themselves on having some mystery formula that they never tell anybody else, and a student has to wait until they get their admission letter by email or in the mail to know whether or not they were accepted. So we try to make that process as transparent as possible, radically transparent, in fact. We do require some evidence of English proficiency depending on where you come from in the world, but generally speaking, Norwegian students don't have to worry about that. Now, we do also have students who maybe are coming to us from Norway, who have started university someplace in the past, and that's fine. In fact, we have threshold-based admissions for that, and the threshold is in fact a little bit lower than it is if you're a first-year student, and that would be a 2.25 equivalent kind of performance in your university coursework in order for you to have guaranteed admission to PSU. And of course, you know, there are all sorts of questions around how it works as an international student coming to study in the United States, and how you can work to receive what's called an I-20. An I-20 is basically just the invitation that you receive to interview for a visa at the US Embassy. And that's pretty simple. Our friends from Sonor will help you with that. Of course, our staff will help you with that too. And everybody likes to know a little bit about the cost of attendance and how that works compared to what you can be eligible to receive from Lona Casa. Keep in mind, like, unfortunately, if you choose to study in the United States, the price that you see and the cost that you see published on websites and you hear from university representatives is often not actually what the student pays. This process is unfortunately not nearly as transparent as it should be. And almost nobody who attends Portland State University from outside of the United States pays this price, because we offer scholarships, we offer different opportunities to students. But this is the total estimated cost of attendance before you are considered for kind of merit scholarships or grants or things like that. We do offer scholarships. We really take pride in making sure that we have the opportunity to afford applicants specifically from Norway some opportunities to reduce that cost. And you can earn up to $10,000 towards your college degree at Portland State University per year based on your academic profile. So if you have a GPA that meets our minimum requirements, for freshmen, it's 3.0 or above. For transfer students, it's 2.75 equivalent GPA or above. Then you're guaranteed some form of merit-based scholarship, okay? And you all remember I talked a little bit about that honors college. If you're accepted to the honors college, especially if you apply early, if you're, for instance, right now thinking about studying next year, so beginning in fall of 2022 as a first-year student in university somewhere outside of Norway, you will want to begin starting your applications right now. If you apply early to the honors college, you also have a better chance of receiving additional scholarship money for joining the honors college. Now, above and beyond just scholarships, you do, as an international student, have the opportunity to be able to work on campus if you wish. Now, this work on campus actually isn't really what I would consider something that helps you to defray your cost of attendance. It's more or less pocket money. So if you want to go to the movies with your friends, or if you want to take and rent a car and go out to the coast, and to the ocean and stay in an Airbnb and listen to the water crashing on the shores, it's excellent money to do that kind of thing and to help you pay for all of the coffee that you're going to be drinking as a college student. There are also opportunities to defray your expenses that come from actual other types of scholarships. Sometimes academic departments at PSU have specific scholarships. Sometimes as a student, you have opportunities to lower your costs based on, for instance, becoming what we call a resident assistant. It's someone who works in the dormitories and helps make sure all the students are behaving. That can cover your total cost of living if you decide to apply for that and receive that as a student. Some of these opportunities only become available to students after they've actually been a student at PSU for at least 6 months. So just know that there are ways to peel back that onion and then to make the experience of studying abroad more affordable. Sometimes those opportunities only come once you're a student on campus, because not all the opportunities we afford are to new students. Sometimes they're to continuing students too. And like I said, there's a timeline in the United States that you generally want to follow. You generally want to apply about 1 year before you anticipate beginning your studies. So for instance, if you're thinking about coming for fall of 2022, you want to start your applications right now. Think about, by the time winter comes, submitting applications for where you want to live, and then schedule virtual visits, or if you have the means, come and visit us in person. We'd love to have and host you, okay? There are events in the spring where students are welcome to talk to us and meet counselors and receive their admission decisions. And then, of course, by the time summer comes, we'll be working on visa stuff. Okay, I'm going to also put my direct email address in here too, in case you have questions and you want to follow up after the presentation. I will be happy to take questions from folks who are here right now. I've dropped my email address in the chat. And this, of course, is our general contact details. If you want to talk with us generally, ask questions about your academic profile, to know more about the housing options, you're certainly welcome to contact us. And of course, our social media is located down there below. And with that, I think that kind of, oh, and of course we want to, if you cannot come here in person, we have lots of opportunities for you to visit us virtually. One of the things, the upsides of the pandemic is that everybody has developed a strategy so that you can have a visit experience, a virtual experience of visiting our campus. I think universities have gotten a lot better out of that, out of necessity. We really have some really great virtual campus tour opportunities where you can kind of feel what it's like to be on campus. Happy to provide those details to you too, if you wish. We'd love to be able to afford that opportunity to you. Okay. That's what I've got. Thomas, did I go over my time?
I think that was brilliant. Thank you so much for the presentation, Sam.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so guys, if you have any questions, you can either unmute yourself and ask the questions, or if you're a bit more shy, you can of course just type it down in the chat box as well. So I just want to follow up on a couple of things that Sam mentioned. So when he says a GPA that are required for admissions to Portland State University, that translates into about a 4.0 average from your Norwegian vitnemål, and also, like you said, you don't have to do any extra tests for English if you have 4 or above from your English classes in high school. And SATs and stuff like that as well. You don't have to take them. So that's the application procedure to PSU is quite straightforward as well. There is it's I shouldn't say simple, but it's easy.
Yeah, it's definitely simple. You should definitely say simple. We try to make it as simple as possible. That is very intentional, Thomas.
Perfect. And also with regards to like living expenses and stuff like that as well. So the if you are living, if you don't have a very flamboyant lifestyle and want to have takeaway coffees to every meal and eat out all the time, you can totally live off the support that you get from Lånekassen. It is really doable. But if you want to have a bit more spending money, I mean, of course, if you're already planning to go to Portland, you want to see the surroundings as well, maybe do a bit of traveling in the US in general. I usually recommend that the students to the students that I advise that they save up about 30,000 extra Norwegian per semester, and you can do that. Either you get a job on campus on a student visa. You can work 20 hours a week on campus, or a job that's through the university that you're registered at. Or you can, of course, if you feel a bit homesick, you want to go home for the summer months when you have the big summer holiday and work back home in Norway as well. That's perfectly fine. So in terms of finances, it's definitely doable to go to Portland. I know from previous experience that a lot of students from Norway, sometimes they're interested in starting in January. Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, we actually have 4 different start terms. So unlike lots of universities in the US that are in the semester system, they only have 2 start terms, usually September or August, and then one again in January. We have 4 because we're on the quarter system. So you could start in September, late September. Like I said, classes are starting a week from now, a little less than that. And then you can start again in January if you wish, or there's the spring term, which starts in late March, early April, or you can start in summer, but we don't really advise students to start in summer because most of the classes are what are called accelerated classes, where you do 11 weeks worth of coursework in 3 to 5 weeks. And usually this is the kind of activity that is not a great transition going from studying in one country and learning in one language rapidly into another. So we kind of advise against that. But if you are feeling super brave and you want to take that upon yourself, it's certainly an opportunity open to you. Yes. I also see a question in the chat. So the only document you need for admission is the Vitnemål. That's absolutely correct. The application process can be neatly summarized like this. Number 1, fill out the application. Number 2, pay the application fee. Number 3, send us your Vitnemåls.
Yeah.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah, it's yeah, it is simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then yeah, so it's yeah, you can definitely do that. I know from experience that you also ask for the English version of the Vitnemål as well. So for those of you that you don't have the transcript or the Vitnemål in Norwegian, most of you have it in Norwegian already. But if you don't have the English copy, you just contact the administration at the school that you're going to, and they'll help you out. If they're not able to help you, you just ask your Sonor counselor, and we'll help you up with the translation as well. So yeah, shouldn't be too hard, but yeah, it is easy. It is simple to apply.
Yeah, I think that we try really hard to make sure that this process isn't overwhelming or too difficult for students. That's the goal. We don't want to make this any more stressful than it needs to be. We basically want to be able to tell you whether or not you can study with us.
And also I mentioned the sports teams at the PSU as well. They have a very Scandinavian name.
Yes, they have the Vikings. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and we actually, what's really cool is because of our connection to Nike, I wish I had it in here. I used to have this little Viking bobblehead. Oh, I do. Hold on. Give me a second. So the Viking used to kind of look a little bit ridiculous. This is what he looked like. I don't know if you can see this, but
Yeah.
not so ferocious looking. So they helped us. Nike was like, yo, you guys can do a much better job at making your image a little bit more competitive by letting us do the design work for your sports logos for us. So they did that for us, and now we've got this really cool looking Viking logo and mascot, and a little bit more fierce looking. Yeah.
Great. So yeah, there is a bit of Scandinavian heritage as well at PSU
Yes.
with the Vikings.
Thomas, I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but one of the reasons why we have the Vikings on our campus is because in the 1800s, when Oregon was being settled, there were a lot of Norwegian and Scandinavian immigrants coming here because they needed people who had experience logging in the timber industry. And so, there were lots of people with a last name that ended with SEN, which I think is very Scandinavian, especially
like mine.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
But so that there's a heritage here. In fact, you can still take Norwegian and Swedish classes here, which is not so common in the United States, actually.
Yeah. So there is yet another reason for why you should go to Portland, because they have historical ties to
That's right.
to Norway. So yeah, that's really cool. I don't see any more questions. Is there anything else, Sam, you feel that we should mention at this stage?
I would just say, regardless of where you all are thinking about studying, if it's in the United States, my most important advice I can offer you is this. Number one, apply early. The earlier you apply, the more opportunities you have to get scholarship, to have more information, to be ahead of the game. And number two, don't be shy when it comes to connecting with the people that work at the universities. They are your best advocate. I can tell you from experience, I've been doing this kind of work with international students for more than 16 years. And oftentimes we don't hear from students throughout the admission process as much as we would like to. And sometimes that leaves them at a competitive disadvantage. Ask us questions. The reason why we have jobs is to be able to support you as students, specifically in the United States. You've got great support from Sonor, but also you've got great support in the US. If you are looking at universities and colleges in the United States, if they have people like me, they've got a commitment to wanting to have international students on their campus, and they want to be able to provide you the information that you want and that's relevant to you and your family. So use us as a resource. That's why we're here.
Yeah, I think that's a great note to end this webinar. So Sam, thank you so much for taking out some of your time to give this really great presentation. And thank you to everyone who also decided to join us. A big thank you to you as well. Just a quick mention that, of course, if you're not already in contact with a counselor here in Study Outside Norway, please do so. You have already received text messages or emails from me about this webinar. So contact us through there, and also there is plenty of more information on the website and also on our social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, but the most useful I find is probably Instagram and YouTube. So yeah, those are great places to start doing some more research about where you're going to study.
And I also just dropped that link to our registration information for attendance today. And I'll tell you why that's important. If you are going to these presentations, if you're meeting with people from colleges and universities, the best way to raise your hand and to continue the conversation, other than being in touch with Sonor, is to tell us that you're interested. That's the only way we can have you on the radar. And the only best way for you to continue the conversation with the university too.
Perfect. So I think we're gonna end on that note. Thank you to everyone for joining in this evening, and also best of luck with your applications and everything. So yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Have a great evening.